When Mrs. Agnes Whitaker settled on her favorite park bench, she expected just another quiet afternoon feeding the birds. The sun gently filtered through the trees of Maple Grove Park, its golden rays catching the dew still clinging to the grass. Agnes, a petite woman in her early 70s, walked with a soft shuffle, her silver curls pinned neatly beneath a wide-brimmed sun hat. She wore a knitted cardigan, slightly worn at the elbows, and carried a canvas tote bag, its contents rustling softly as she approached the bench. With a sigh of contentment, Agnes lowered herself onto the weathered bench, its wooden slats smoothed by countless seasons. "Good morning, my little friends," she cooed, reaching in her bag and pulling out a small paper sack of birdseed. Instantly, a flock of pigeons fluttered down, cooing and pecking at the ground in anticipation. With a flick of her wrist, she scattered the seeds across the grass, smiling as the birds gathered at her feet. Her mind wandered, as it often did, to memories of days long gone, of bustling kitchens, laughter-filled family dinners, and the warm embrace of her late husband. Her children had moved to distant cities years ago, their lives busy with careers and families of their own. The park had become Agnes's sanctuary, a place where she could still feel connected to the vibrant pulse of life. She watched children play on the nearby jungle gym, their joyful shouts echoing through the crisp morning air. A little girl in pigtails zipped down the slide with her arms raised high in victory, while two boys chased each other around the monkey bars. Agnes chuckled softly. "Oh, to be young again," she mused, tossing another handful of seeds. Just as she was about to reach in her bag for more, something unusual caught her eye, a small figure moving hesitantly along the park's cobblestone path. The girl, no more than 8 years old, was glancing over her shoulder nervously, as though expecting someone to appear behind her. Her brown hair was tied into two messy ponytails, her clothes slightly disheveled, and her little hands clutched the straps of her backpack tightly. Agnes sat up straighter, her instincts prickling with concern. "Hello there, dear," she called out gently, not wanting to startle her. "Are you all right?" The girl hesitated, her wide hazel eyes filled with both fear and hope. For a brief moment, she seemed to consider Agnes's offer of safety, but something made her glance back again, her shoulders tensing. That's when Agnes noticed him, a man standing partly hidden behind a cluster of trees, watching the girl intently. His dark clothes blended into the shadows, but the rigid posture, the intensity of his gaze, made Agnes's stomach twist with alarm. She had lived long enough to trust her instincts, and right now, every fiber of her being was screaming danger. "Come here, sweetie," Agnes urged, her voice filled with warmth, masking her rising fear. "You look like you could use a friend." The girl hesitated for just a second longer before sprinting toward the bench. Her small feet barely made a sound as she ran across the grass. Agnes opened her arms wide, her grandmotherly smile unwavering. "Oh, darling, there you are. I was starting to worry," she said loudly, her voice designed to carry. The girl didn't hesitate. She dove into Agnes's arms, her small body trembling. "Please," she whispered, her voice shaking with panic. "Pretend you know me. He's been following me." Agnes's heart clenched. Tightening her embrace, she smiled down at the girl, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "Of course, sweetheart," she replied before raising her voice again. "You must be starving after that long walk. Let's sit here for a bit." She risked a glance toward the trees. The man was still there, but now his expression was more calculating, as if he wasn't sure whether to approach or retreat. "What's your name, honey?" Agnes whispered as they sat down. "Emily," the girl replied, her voice barely audible. "Emily," Agnes repeated, as if recalling a cherished name. "That's a lovely name. You remind me so much of my granddaughter." The man had moved closer, stepping out from behind the trees, his posture casual, but his eyes sharp. Agnes's pulse quickened. She needed a plan. Discreetly, she slid her hand in her tote bag, fingers searching for her phone. She kept her voice light and cheerful. "Let me just call your mom, darling. She'll be thrilled to know you're safe." Emily nodded, catching on quickly. Agnes dialed 911, but when the operator answered, she spoke in code. One. Yes, I'm here at Maple Grove Park with Emily. We're having a lovely time, but I think we'll be a bit late for lunch. She listened carefully as the operator picked up on her distress. There's a man nearby, very suspicious. Please send help, Agnes added softly before continuing in a bright tone. Yes, of course, we'll stay right here. The man was now within 20 feet, his dark eyes fixed on them. Agnes placed the phone in her lap, still connected, and smiled at Emily. You know, your mother always tells me how much you love apple pie. Maybe we can bake one together next time. Emily managed a small smile. I'd like that, Grandma. But before Agnes could respond, the man spoke. Excuse me, he said, his voice rough but forced into a veneer of politeness. That's your granddaughter? Agnes turned to him, keeping her smile intact. Yes, this is Emily. I haven't seen her in months. Her family lives so far away. Why do you ask? The man hesitated, clearly trying to gauge whether she was telling the truth. Funny, he said. She doesn't seem too happy to see you. Agnes chuckled, waving him off. Oh, she's just tired. We had a long morning. His eyes narrowed, his hand twitching toward his jacket pocket. Agnes saw the faint glint of metal, the outline of a knife. Her heart pounded in her chest. Just then, the distant wail of sirens reached her ears. The man heard it too. His eyes darted around, panic flickering across his face. Without warning, he turned and bolted, sprinting across the park. Stay here, Agnes told Emily firmly before shouting. He's running. 2 police cars screeched into the park, officers leaping out and giving chase. Agnes wrapped her arms tightly around Emily as they watched the officers pursue the man across the field. Within moments, he was tackled to the ground, the knife skidding across the grass as it flew from his grasp. An officer approached Agnes and Emily, his face serious but kind. Ma'am, are you all right? Agnes nodded, her hand still protectively on Emily's shoulder. We're fine, thanks to you. The officer knelt beside Emily. You were very brave, young lady. Emily's lip trembled before she burst into tears, clinging to Agnes. I was so scared, she sobbed. Agnes held her tight, whispering soothing words. It's all over now, sweetheart. You're safe. Moments later, a couple came running into the park, Emily's parents. The mother's face crumpled with relief when she saw her daughter. Emily, Mom, Dad, Emily cried, leaping into their arms. They thanked Agnes through their tears, the mother gripping her hand. You saved our little girl. We'll never be able to repay you. No need, Agnes replied softly. I was just in the right place at the right time. But Emily wouldn't let go. Grandma Agnes, can we still make that apple pie? Agnes smiled, tears welling in her eyes. Of course, sweetheart. Of course. And in that moment, Agnes realized something profound. She hadn't just saved Emily. Emily had saved her too, pulling her from the solitude of her quiet life and giving her something she hadn't known she needed: family.